Okay, so here's a quick hill test on the Eleglide C1. We're at a full charge. We're also on gear 5. This hill is not too steep, but I've no doubt in my mind, yes, take a look at that piece of cake going up a hill like this with that mid-drive motor that I've never actually tried on an e-bike, and I have to say it is so smooth, no noise at all coming from that mid-drive motor. I absolutely love it. Okay, next test is to see what speed we can get up to. It should be 25 kilometers an hour, so we'll compare it to the GPS on my phone here. So let's take a look. Again, gear 5. God, I really love that mid-drive motor. I'll talk about other features now in a second, but let's see if the claims are true. Okay, so we're actually at 26, 27, 26, 25. Okay, so the claims are true. We're actually at the 25 kilometer hour top speed on the Eleglide C1. So let's talk about a few other things before I break this bike down and tell you my overall verdict. Well, it does have 7 Shimano gears. Gears are nice and smooth on this bike. You get a standard finger belt here. This bike would be basically road legal in a majority of countries, which is what, of course, we all need. It does not have an accelerator, so it is with your pedaling force only. Suspension on this bike is so smooth, I must say. You can lock the suspension if you want on the C1, or you can have it to travel. The traveling on that suspension is, oh, that is so spongy. I mean, that is so spongy. You have to give a good bit of force to bottom out the suspension. But I do love it. Grips on the C1 are quite comfortable. A bit hard on this area where your palm would be, but they provide your hand with a bit more, I guess, going long term cycling. They should do the job just fine. Another thing about the C1, it comes with full hydraulic brakes. So let's get up to speed here and let's do both brakes at the same time. Okay, so we're at top speed, 25 kilometers an hour, and let's do a brake test. Ooh, whoa. Yeah, I mean, excellent braking. Now, the mid-drive motor on this provides 70 Newton meters of torque. So in other words, because of course you're using your feet with the motor, getting up hills should not be a problem at all, because of course you can downshift your gears, you have the motor assisting you. So from a hill climber, this bike is excellent, and that is pretty much what you need nowadays. Weak motors are, in my opinion, no longer acceptable. You need at least a good bit of torque from them. So the width of the handlebars is actually quite generous, to be honest. Of course it provides stability, but because you're not going crazy high speeds, you will get, of course, excellent stability overall. The handlebar height is also adjustable on this, so you can have the handlebars up more towards you if you want. So again, if you're a bit taller, I'm 5'8", so this bike is actually quite comfortable for me, to be honest. So even if you're a bit taller, it will do the job. I must say though, quality, it's so quiet. Sometimes on a lot of bikes you would have noise, banging, clacking, noise from the mud guards. And yeah, I have to say I'm quite happy. Taking this out of the box is a piece of cake. It'll only take you around 15 minutes to assemble, just take your time. Well, before I give my overall verdict of the Eleglide C1, a huge shout out to them for sending me this bike to review. By the way, all opinions, as always, in all of my videos are completely my own, whether they be good or bad. This is the first bike that I've ever had from them, and I gotta say, it has not let me down at all. I am not disappointed. To cut a long story short on this bike, let's talk about the features in a bit more detail. So if you've been watching this channel for a good few years now, or if you're just new here, to cut a long story short, this is the first ever e-bike that I've had on the channel that is indeed a mid-drive motor. And I have to say, there is zero noise coming from it, and because it is a torque sensor motor as well, I mean, that's just exactly what you want on an e-bike. There's no weight at the back, there's no weight at the front, so the center of gravity is absolutely excellent coming from that motor, and it's 70 newton meters of torque. So getting up hills with a bike like this, and of course you have the luxury of using your gears to get up those hills as well, and your leg power, I mean, it's absolutely excellent. Other features of the Eleglide C1 bike is that it has quick release wheels in the front and in the rear, which again, because of that mid-drive motor, if you get a puncture on your front or your rear wheel, you don't have the hassle of playing around with cables. You just pop off your wheel, change your tube, or whatever you want to do. Absolutely excellent from, I guess, a convenience factor, because of course, if you all know, or maybe you don't know yet, if you have a motor at the back or at the front, sometimes there's not a lot of slack on the cable, which can make it a nightmare to change tires or tubes, or if they're not quick release either. So again, that's another advantage of that mid-drive motor, and I would love to see more electric bikes actually adopting something like that. I don't know, maybe it's because of the cost, I'm not entirely sure, but from my first bike that I've tried with this, I mean, it's absolutely after blown me away completely. And another feature of the C1 is that it has 27.5-inch wheels, which are excellent. The tires are brilliant on this bike. They're not narrow, they give you plenty of grip even in wet weather. Of course, always be careful in wet weather, but overall, from the comfortability from those tires, plus that suspension, which is actually quite large, quite difficult to bottom out unless you're going ridiculously stupid with the bike. I mean, overall comfortability is excellent. But let's talk about some of the safety features of the C1. From a safety aspect, the C1 comes with full hydraulic brakes front and rear, and a lot of e-bikes out there that I've reviewed just have standard mechanical disc brakes. Even though you're only going that top speed of 25 kilometers an hour on the C1, those brakes do more than enough than what you need, and it just gives you that confidence in stopping if you need to in an emergency case. So I know a lot of people out there do ask regularly on the channel, would it be suitable for taller people or smaller people? Just to give you a quick reference, I am 5'8", okay, and the saddle on this is height adjustable as well. So here's what it looks like. If you're at a standstill, set of traffic lights, you can just rest your right leg, left leg there. So it's quite comfortable. Plus, as well, on this bike, the handlebars can actually tilt up this way if you want them more towards your chest, or you can even tilt them down quite far if you want them down as well. So it should be suitable for most heights, to be honest. But let's talk about one of the cool features about this. So check this out. The battery on this bike is a 36-volt battery that can give you a range of up to 150 kilometers. Of course, that depends on many conditions like what speed you're going, is there hills, what the temperature is outside, and so on. But the battery is 36 volt, but it's also a quick release battery. Pop the key in here, you turn this latch and the battery pops out, which gives you that really cool thing of being able to, basically at home I have quite a small space at the moment, so I just took out the battery and I was able to charge it in the corner and leave the bike off to one side. So again, another convenience factor of the C1. So just to give you a quick look on top here, this is your standard display. You have your on button here and you have 5 gears. The 5th gear of course gives you the most assistance, and of course it does have other features like a 10-minute timer. Now, to give you a reference, the battery is still at 100%, and I've been on this bike for around, I think, 10 or 15 kilometers so far today. So that's pretty excellent, to be honest. To change your gears, you just simply do this. You do have other P settings in there. You know, if you want to change your P settings, you just hold down your plus and minus keys. And then of course you can change your units into miles per hour, Top speed would be 32 kilometers an hour if you're outside the EU. Because I am inside the EU, it's 25 kilometers an hour. You do have a 10-minute timer. Again, if you want to change this, you just use plus or minus to put it onto a 5-minute turn off timer. And then you have your lights. You can brighten the display, which goes very bright, or I have it on level 2 at the moment, which is more than good enough even in sunlight like this. So pretty standard display. Basically, the less things you have sometimes on an e-bike or an e-scooter, the less things that can go wrong. Standard, I guess, bell here. You can change the bell if you want, but I mean, you know, it's okay, it does the job. You have your 7 Shimano gears. Gear shifting on this is very smooth, pretty much dialed in. Again, you can lock the suspension if you want in this, or have it for traveling. Of course, I would suggest having it for traveling. Cable design, cable management, again, it's not too bad. Of course, you could just tie wrap these, you know, make it a bit neater, but nothing to worry about. Connectors are quite decent on this. It is also actually IPX5 rated, so it should be suitable in kind of more or less heavy rain conditions. Because of where the motor is, it's integrated completely into the frame here. So again, if you just take a look, it's not actually that exposed. So I mean, that's another really nice thing about this motor. Instead of brushless motors that can come damaged to wet weather, but overall, I mean, I think it will do a fantastic job over time. You can also, if you want, you can also get this bike in a step-through version. So instead of popping your leg over like I do on this bike, basically this bar is gone on the step-through version. So you can just hop your leg over quite easily. And another thing as well is you get this rack, which is completely standard. You know, if you want to put a bit of shopping on there, and the max weight on this is 15 kilos. So do I have any complaints about the C1 or something that I'm actually concerned about? No. I mean, I think it pretty much ticks all the boxes for most people. But let's talk about who it's not for. It's not for somebody who's looking to really go off-road, because of course I think you do have front suspension, which is fantastic, but on off-road you would also need something like a rear suspension, and generally for off-road you'd need something that has kind of 2 motors if you're going a bit crazy. So it's not for that type of person. But I think the people who it would be for, people who go to work, A to B, people who have a small house, a small apartment where you can take the battery out, charge it at home, which is really good. General terrain would be just normal roads, maybe a bit of gravel, nothing too crazy. It's not a mountain climber by any means, but again, it should suit a majority of people for what they are looking for. But let's talk about the value. Now, of course, keep in mind the features of the C1. You do have a really good quality mid-drive motor, so just keep that in mind. It comes with, of course, hydraulic brakes, suspension, I mean, excellent comfortability, fantastic torque, really good tyres. I mean, it ticks everything. But the price of this is around 1,300 euros. Now, you might be saying, is it worth that? I think it's kind of on the borderline of being worth that. I think if it was something like 1,200 or something, it would be kind of a good price point. For what you're getting, I mean, for peace of mind, with a good IPX5 rating, with a really nice, basically that mid-drive motor, I think it's the main selling point of the C1, and it will suit most heights. I think it's quite decent. If I do manage to get any discount code, even if it's just for a limited time from the company, I will always try and help people out by linking it in the description of this video. But in the meantime, if you have enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe, and I'll talk to you in the next video.